While Chris Columbus didn't do a terrible job on the first two Potter films, there was no way the tone he had set in the first two films would work for the rest of the series, and us Potter fans should be ever grateful that he decided to step down, as Warner Brothers never would have fired him after the financial success of the first two. Alfonso Cauron was the perfect man for the job, despite his hiring coming as a bit of a surprise. Cauron was known as a powerhouse of a director at the time of his hire, having several incredible films under his belt already, Y Tu Mama Tambien, for instance, but none were to the magnitude that the third Potter film proved to be. Taking only their Potter films into consideration, Columbus is not equal to Cauron, and the two have many differences. Columbus gave the first two films a very warm, almost childlike vibe, which, while perfect for the first two, would never have worked for the later ones, and that's exactly where Cauron stepped in. As you can see here, Cauron gave the series a much darker, more serious tone through his use of coloring and shot selection. Completely changing the tone and color scheme of the film was the most notable change Cauron made, but, in my opinion, the things that made the biggest difference were the things that could almost go unnoticed, like the way he let each of the young actors let their character come out through the way they dressed, for instance. Cauron gave these young actors freedom in which they'd never experienced before under Chris Columbus. One of the most notable changes is the way the various characters wear their school uniforms. You see Hermione wearing hers exactly how it's supposed to be, Ron's looking incredibly disheveled, and Harry being somewhat in the middle. This subtly tells you about their characters and how seriously they take things in relation to each other. But this didn't only apply to the big three. No. Cauron allowed even the more minor characters to modify their uniforms, which, in my opinion, was much bigger than the main characters, since we already knew a lot about their characterization. Seeing how, say, Seamus Finnegan, for example, wore their uniforms allowed the movie-only watchers to get filled in on some of the things that were previously privy to only the book readers. Columbus failed to bridge the book-to-movie gap in this respect. Cauron wasn't done there with clothes, though. In a stroke of genius from him, he allowed the kids to wear Muggle clothes at Hogwarts, and while not in the books, it made them far more relatable to kids watching the films. This was an incredibly bold move at the time, considering he was a successor to Chris Columbus, a director who didn't dare stray from the source material. It's safe to say Cauron didn't have the same qualms. His willingness to make these bold choices made him a very divisive figurehead for the series. Prisoner of Azkaban was either people's favorite film of the 8, or they absolutely despised it. But as you can see here, his one and only Potter film continually ranks as the best of the series, with Columbus's two towards the end of most lists. What would have happened if Columbus had never stepped down, or if Cauron wouldn't have taken over the reins of the franchise?